Webster Tarpley is our guest. I want to start taking your calls coming up in the next segment. Webster, let's move quickly through what's happening in the rest of the world. Obviously, the globalists, the neocons, the neoliberals, the New World Order, the Anglo-American establishment, the global empire, they want crises worldwide. What do you see happening with North Korea right now? And what do you see unfolding with that in the future?
Well, North Korea has traditionally been used by the U.S. Under Bush, let's say, to maintain imperial discipline in Northeast Asia, especially when the U.S. was getting ready to attack Iraq under Bush. You might have thought that when the cat's away, the mice will play. That might have given Japan and South Korea the chance to do something independent on their own. So in order to make sure that didn't happen, and this is actually an exercise in buck passing, as the theoreticians call this, if you get a crisis going with North Korea, you terrify Japan, terrify South Korea, you force them back to the skirts of the U.S. Nuclear umbrella, to mix a metaphor, and you maintain control by having an artificial crisis. So Kim Jong-il, the dear leader, has been a great asset for the U.S. in maintaining the imperial status quo in Northeast Asia, also, scaring China, embarrassing China, creating all kinds of problems for China. And I think that's what they're doing again. As you mentioned, there have been all kinds of provocative maneuvers by the U.S. and probably South Korea. The South Korean leader right now seems to be much more of a hawk than the one before. You've got this, every year they have this Ulchi focus lens exercise and so forth.
Yeah, that happened a month ago. Former presidents being thrown off cliffs, all submarines and ships, planes flying over North Korean airspace, right while the dear leader is giving power to the next hereditary thug, who's 20-something years old. Perfect time to try to razz them.
I think they've probably had some border violations and territorial water violations, at least the way they see it. They are paranoid, of course. These people are the true heirs of Stalin, I guess, in the modern era. So it's a paranoid regime, and it seems to me also that they must have been getting threats that the world public doesn't see. In other words, some kind of a back channel, informal envoy, traveler, who knows what. Speaking for the U.S. government.
Well, now they're saying you ship even artillery shells to any country. Every other nation can sell weapons. We're going to board your ships and take them, which is a Cuban Missile Crisis level provocation. So that's out in the open, throwing the gauntlet down. Right,
and I think on this they're right, that if you board one of their ships on the high seas, that's an act of piracy and war, and that is casus belli. In other words, if you want to take it that way, that can be the reason to get going with a war. I don't know if it's going to come to that, but look, go back to Joe Biden's famous speech in Seattle, 19th of October last year, where he said, after 1 year, we'll be hated because of our economic policies, and we're going to need your support then. That was the long perspective. The short perspective was, in the first 6 months, Obama will be tested with a manufactured international crisis. So 6 months takes us up to the 20th of July. So we've got a little bit less than a month for this to happen. And the hype now, of course, as everybody can see, is that there's going to be some kind of a missile test from North Korea on or around July 4th, that this is a great affront to the U.S. We've got the Patriot missile battalions, I guess, sent to Hawaii, demands for more ABM interceptors in Alaska, and so forth.
But in reality, North Korea has put out their international alert, as all governments do when the U.S. and Russia test missiles, saying we're firing a missile into this area in and around this date. Nowhere near Hawaii it's come out, and it's on the death date of the first thug. They always test missiles, it turns out, on the death date, the day he died. So this is more just manufactured crises.
Right, and of course it is their right to test missiles within certain parameters, right? Everybody else does it, right? Pakistan, India, Iran, everybody in the world has missiles, starting with the U.S., the Russians, the British, and the French. So it's a manufactured crisis, and I think the goal is always to maintain the subjugation and subjection of Japan, especially South Korea, and also to embarrass China, just to create tremendous problems for China, because the worse things are in North Korea, the more refugees go across into China, the bigger the problem is for this very important Chinese province of Manchuria, right, which is right above North Korea, Harbin and these places in China, big industrial centers. So it's a cynical crisis being artificially created by people like Biden. And isn't it also for our consumption here domestically as well, not just to keep the entire area of Asia in fear? Yes, I think. And remember, with Obama, the door to false flag is now wide open because the ruling elite thinks that he can accuse a country and be believed, which would not be. Exactly. Let's cover false flag when we get back and then take your phone calls, then get into the economy.
The New World Order beast is genetically modifying your food, mixing vegetables with animals, and now experimenting with viruses. Without a long-term food solution, you will have just two options: starve, or surrender. All canned food supplies will eventually run out. What then? Grow your own healthy food and feed your family forever. SurvivalistSeeds.com is now the nation's largest bulk heirloom seed company, and it's owned by a real patriot, Big John Lipscomb. You can now have an infinite amount of healthy vegetables like a watermelon, a bundle of carrots, or tomatoes for a little more than a penny each. SurvivalistSeeds.com. And now you can go into business with Big John at SurvivalistSeeds.com by becoming an affiliate. See his link at SurvivalistSeeds.com.
Johan, Anthony, Annie, many others. Your calls are coming up here in just a few minutes at 1-800-259-9231, 1-800-259-9231. I really appreciate Webster Tarpley spending so much time with us today. We've got him till a half hour into the next 30 last minutes of the show. I'm going to do a big news blitz and play some important video clips and give you my take on why they're getting rid of the South Carolina governor, or at least destroying his political fortunes. So that is coming up as well. But I do want to get into false flag terror and then the economy with Webster Tarpley in one moment. I wanted to briefly get Webster Griffin Tarpley's take on a few news items, and then we'll do false flag terror, then calls, and then the economy before he leaves us. But I wanted to bring this up because Webster really is a historian and a economist and author and journalist. I mean, he really is a great guy. And the more I research this stuff, the more I realize over the years how much Webster really does know. This is a crass plug. We carry both of his great books, the one about Barack Obama and his crime machine, and then the unauthorized biography of Obama. You really want the straight poop, as they say. This isn't rumor, innuendo, baloney. This is scholarly. All available at Infowars.com. But I'll put you on the spot, Webster. You're obviously in the Obama deception, the main narrative voice in there other than myself. But in game, I remember I gave a speech in Chicago, first time I physically met you. I've been interviewing you for more than 10 years. And I remember you going, yes, excellent information, and then learning you had a great knowledge of the eugenics model, the idea of these people. The establishment is all moving at once right now as if they know their window of opportunity is closing. And they're moving with eugenics. They're moving with one-child policies worldwide, you know, getting rid of tax credits for kids and even trying to tax having children. They are launching programs of climate cops, training children to tattle on their parents in the United States, in Australia, and Canada. It's in the news today. Climate cops to fine wasteful homeowners and businesses. Austin's already setting this up as home audits. Has nothing to do with energy. Literally, this commissariat, I guess would be the best way to describe it, but it's not communist. It's like a fascistic commissariat or political officer. And they have the Green Police. In fact, here's a shot of that for folks on prisonplanet.tv. Green Police, and that as people lose their jobs, it won't be an FDR, build dams, build roads, build rest stops, build power plants. It will be literally tattling on neighbors, spying on people, watching surveillance camera banks. That's all in the news now. And the carbon tax, Al Gore. Can you spend a few minutes on that? Then we'll go to calls and then get into false flag and the economy. But, I mean, the Federal Reserve banker reform bill is a Federal Reserve can seize anything connected to any part of the economy, just the complete end of the Bill of Rights and Constitution. We thought Bush was bad. It's just a progression, an evolution from bad to worse, where the feds are announcing they're taking over the entire water supply, no more states' rights. They're announcing green taxes. They're announcing total takeovers, banking takeovers, Homeland Security report saying all gun owners and veterans are terrorists. I mean, it's so over the top, I'm having trouble processing it all. Are they trying to just bum rush us like a human wave attack of tyranny, where we may shoot down 5 or 6 of the things, but 3 or 4 will make it, and any one of these is like a hydrogen bomb being brought into liberty's bosom?
I would certainly say that one of the main goals of Obama from the very beginning is to undermine the rationality and the political will of the American people. In other words, we had this very interesting thing. A woman who worked for Obama by the name of Sarah last October came out with her confessions, and it was late October.